Hey guys, John here. So I thought I'd make a video about the Arturia V Collection and kind of tell you which ones I like the most. So I picked the top 5 that I generally reach for because I know if you have the V Collection as well, you have all these synthesizers and you're like, I don't even know where to start. This is so cool. I have so many. But at the same time, which one do I pick for what and why would I pick one for what, right? Because that does happen. We do think about that sometimes. So let's switch over here to Bitwig, and I purposely did not load them all up because I don't want to give it away, right? So this list isn't necessarily like a ranking, like I like this one the best. I have these three, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know what I mean? Like I like them all, but these are generally the main 5 that I kind of go with, right? So the first one is going to be the Juno 6V. Now, this one I do really like because one, it is very simplistic, right? It's one of those synthesizers that it sounds good, it's simplistic, and it really gets you to where you want to go in a quick amount of time, right? Even just this default classic Road patch, it sounds pretty cool, right? It's like a, okay, there we go. We have that analog sound, right? And we can actually, if we go here into the sound banks, we can go into like the Vintage Factory. There's a lot of cool stuff that comes here. So it's a lot of cool sounds that we have if we're going to go for like the vintage stuff. And then we have the factory stuff, which comes with a lot of cool stuff. And we can go here to type, maybe make some bass lines. Bring that down an octave here. But yeah, some of these sound pretty cool. And so if you go here to a new preset, one thing that's kind of nice, right? Like if we're looking at it, there's really not that many sections and the chorus is really cool, which is, I mean, that's the whole main sound, right? That's kind of what everyone's sought after, right? The choruses, right? So we have a sound wave and we put the first chorus on, it already sounds pretty cool. We have 2 or both 1 and 2. Which is kind of nice. And if we give it a little bit of a resonance here and kind of do a filter sweep. It's pretty cool. It has an ARP, has an LFO, and if we go up here to the advanced here, we have a second LFO with a second envelope, and then we have our settings here for delay and for reverb, which is really nice as well. And then we also have the calibration, which is kind of cool, and the chorus noise, which it really depends on the track that I'm working on if I want to keep this on. A lot of times I'll take this off, but what's cool is we have the voice calibration so we can say, okay, good, do we want this to be like fresh out of the factory? It's all calibrated, it's all nice, then we'll go with that. We can have an average one, which is kind of like, there might be some inconsistencies. And then we have poor, and there's definitely inconsistencies, but that's part of the charm of this thing here, right? The imperfections is what makes it all nice. So yeah, that's kind of the reason I like the Juno 6V. Simplistic, has an ARP, has like all the controls right in front of you. It's not too crazy, and it just sounds pretty cool. So that is this guy here, and it works for really just about anything that you need it to. So the next one is, you probably already guessed it, is going to be the Jupiter X, or I almost said Jupiter X, not the hardware, the Jupiter 8 V4. So this guy, it kind of reminds me, if I think of it in a certain way, like the Juno, but also like with a little bit more to it, and also sounds really good. And I've always loved this default one, this different ways. Yeah, so I do like this guy here, and if we go into our sound banks, right, we have the Vintage Factory again, which is a lot of cool stuff you can go through if you'd like to. And then we have a lot of the stuff in the factory as well. So yeah, this one is really nice that I like to use quite a few times if I need to. If I want a little bit more flexibility or maybe a slightly different tonality than the Jupiter, then I'll go for the Jupiter 8V, which is also a very good one. Now, The next one, maybe you guys have guessed, I don't know, but is going to be the CS80, especially on the V4. I think with this version, it really kind of got its charm out there. I forget who said it. Maybe it was Vangelis. I don't know, but there was someone that said that this synthesizer is especially musical, and it does feel that way. Like when you put this synthesizer in the context of a track, and maybe you're writing a lead or a bass or something like that, it does feel more musical than maybe some of the other ones in that collection. Maybe that's just part of how the CS80 was made originally. I don't really know. I'd love to play one before I die. It's kind of on my bucket list. And even this default patch is probably one of the perfect ones to represent the sound of the CS80, in my opinion. But again, if we go in here to our sound bank, so I have some of the stuff I've made here, which, what are some of these that I don't even remember. This analog ARP here. What do we have? Classic smooth ARP. Oh yeah, I forgot some about these. And then we have the lead Big, Bright, and Beautiful. And in one of my most recent synthwave tracks, I used the CS80 for the second lead, and I was doing some of the MPE stuff, and man, the results come out really cool. So if that's not something you have done before, definitely try that out because it is a lot of fun. Brash, that one's kind of interesting. Let's see, we have a classic pad. And then when we have a retro lead. But yeah, so this synthesizer is really cool. Now, I know that the interface, the first time you look at it, you're kind of like, oh my God, what is this thing, right? And I promise you, if you kind of just read through the manual, kind of play with it every single day and get used to it, this one is going to become one of your favorites because it does sound really good. And like I said, it sounds musical for some reason. And then you can play around with this ribbon thing. I don't know if you figured this thing out yet. That's a lot of fun at like 2 in the morning when you're trying to go to sleep. You're like, but what about that ribbon though? So yeah, that one's pretty cool. And the next one here is hopefully one of your favorites too, is going to be the Prophet, right? So there's a couple different versions, right? So, I mean, not from Arturia, but like out there, right? So there's like the Repro, there's the Prophet, there's some other emulations as well. And I do like this one. This one, I believe, is the Rev 3 that they model. I could be incorrect, but I do know that the Repro and this Prophet are modeled after different versions of the Prophet. So they do sound different, right? So I know some people like, I prefer this one, I prefer that one. And I personally think they both sound good depending on what you're kind of going for. But I mean, regardless, the Prophet sound is classic. And a lot of these synthesizers are very straightforward. I know nowadays we use a lot of digital stuff and a lot of wavetables and just crazy synthesizers with all these pages and menus. And we kind of get used to that. And then we look at these knobs and we're like, what are these buttons? What are these knobs with numbers around them? And it kind of makes us like, what is this old technology? But it's actually more simplistic than you might think it is. So in some of our sound banks, we have some of the vintage factory stuff, which if you're like, I want some of the original sounds, then there you go. Those are going to be in there. I have some stuff I've made here. I don't even remember some of these. Pop. Oh, I forgot. What's like, it's like an F chorus. I forget the exact chord for that song though. But yeah, there's like the Bob O'Reilly patch right over there. Some synthwave stuff. Yeah, a lot of fun there. Velvet Dreams. What was this guy? Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun there. The chain, the chainsaw. Yeah, this one was kind of disgusting. Yeah, so you can make some really like beautiful ethereal sounds with the Prophet, or you can really get this thing to scream, which is kind of like, I like that balance between both of these here. It's kind of more of a landscapey kind of thing. And most of these patches here, I do have videos on these. So if you're like, oh, I like that patch, there's generally, I have a video with a free patch. So if you're like, I want to get this I'm Coming Home pad, it's on the channel on the Prophet 5 playlist. So you're more than welcome to have that one for free if you'd like it. Same with the chainsaw. One can get a little bit crazy. Okay, so to wrap up this video, the last one on the list is going to be, you're probably going to guess it here, is the Mini, but also the Mini V4, because I think this one is quite a significant improvement from the V3. And this one just kind of sounds more authentic, I guess, maybe. And then we have this little button right here, which is the bass compensation, which that button right there was like, okay, I'm sold. This is really cool, because if we go to, let's say, like a new preset, maybe have our cutoff around here. So we're starting to lose bass there, right? So we have this guy, which kind of gives that back to us. Because with ladder filters, right, so the more we increase the resonance, we're kind of going to lose a little bit of bass. Now that can be a good thing too, right? If you're making a bass and there's a little bit too much, so you might give a little bit of resonance and kind of just EQs it out a little bit without actually having to use an EQ. So that can be kind of cool. But there's a lot of times where like you really want that resonance peak, but you also want that low end as well, and you don't want it to go away. So now you kind of get the best of both worlds with this little button here. So don't overlook that guy. I thought that one was actually pretty cool. So what do we have here? So if we go to our sound banks, let's see what we got in our factory. So a lot of these presets are actually pretty cool. I've got a headache. See, Moo, was a Moo Grit? Yeah, this one turned out really cool. It's gritty, it's low end, it's beefy, it's nice. So yeah, the V4 I think is a significant step up from the V3, which that one also was pretty good. So like I said, in this whole V collection, right, there's so many synthesizers to pick from, and it's so cool that you have that many. But at the same time, you're like, oh my God, I have like all these synthesizers. What do I even do with all these? Which one do I pick? Which one do I like the best? So that's why I kind of want to make this video, that I like these 5. They're probably my favorites. All the other ones are still really great. You know, there's a lot of times you're like, I want to play with the DX7 for a while. That one is also a lot of fun. But yeah, so these are my personal favorites here. I think they sound all pretty cool. And yeah, so now I'm kind of curious about which ones you guys like, because maybe you're like, hey, this one is pretty cool. Check this one out. And maybe I'm like, oh my God, this thing is amazing. And I kind of just go through that timeline. So yeah, which ones are your guys' favorite from the V collection? Also, I do want to add the Acid 5V because that one is pretty awesome. But I kind of was aiming more for like the vintage kind of stuff, right? I guess, is that technically vintage? Maybe, yes, I don't know. But the Acid one, it's kind of like at least for me, it's a one trick kind of thing. Like if you're going for that acid sound, that's the guy and you're going to get that sound. But I wouldn't really use like a 303 sequence at every single track I'm making, right? Like imagine a really smooth synthwave track and it's like, oh, now here's like this crazy 303 acid sequence. It kind of be a little bit jarring. I don't know. But yeah, so those are my favorite ones there. What are your favorite ones? I'm kind of curious to see which ones you like the most. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.